I have an idea for a show, like a podcast. You read the subheaders on someone's Wikipedia page and try to figure out who the celebrity is. Ooh. So, like, on Wikipedia, there's like background, personal life, et cetera, et cetera. Some people, like, you can get, like, for example, I was looking at Arnold Schwarzenegger's Wikipedia page for some reason.
That must be amazing.
Holy shit. He's got a lot of subheaders, but you can get really specific. You can be like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you don't say the name of the person, but you'd say like background, personal life, wrestling, and then that narrows it down, and then you go governorship of California, like, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Was he a wrestler? I don't remember him as a wrestler.
Bodybuilder, I meant. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, it's okay. I thought maybe, wow, that's amazing too, that would be on his Wikipedia page, that you would start with wrestler and more obscure of the facts.
What a great game.
So I'm looking at one right now. This is I actually don't really know who this person is, but I feel like the show knows who he is. So I'll give you guys like 5 guesses, and I'll get like more specific.
All right.
Background. Broadcasting career. Hockey. Controversies.
Oh boy.
Curt Schilling.
Oh.
Is it Don Cherry?
It is not Don Cherry. That's incorrect.
That's a
Jeremy
good guess.
Roenick.
Good guess, though. Good guess.
Jeremy Roenick, also
Another
a
good
good guess.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Sanderson. No, not him, no.
Go Gary Thorne.
Gary Thorne.
Wow.
Nice. Excellent
Wow.
game. I'm liking
Jeez.
this game.
Wow.
As I look at how proud Mike is. Mike is so happy to be a winner of this game. Mike, congratulations for being someone who yelled Gary Thorne and got to be your favorite thing, which is right.
I still don't think I had the best guess,
Who did?
given what I know about people's political leanings.
It'd be great if you could also use information that you have to blurt things people don't know. Just yell about a broadcaster because you heard so many things. I saw the fear wipe across your face when you yelled Rennick. You've got scarred
Ronick. That's fine.
That was me.
It is a fine.
Yeah.
When you yelled Ronick, you got a scar. You got a fear across your face.
Yeah.
Well, that's where Curt Schilling, I think, narrows it down, because I think if you go like broadcasting career, hockey, controversies, there's at least like 4 or 5 potentials. But then Curt Schilling, it was the broadcaster of hockey who had the Curt Schilling controversy.
Let's play this
Gary
game
Thorne.
next week. Let's find some good people.
This is
to play this
proprietary,
game.
though. If I know people are going to listen
Right.
to
Yes,
this,
I'm sure
and
no
they're going to
one.
want to
You'll
steal
want
it,
it copyrighted.
trademarking it right now.
We'll slap a bed behind it, and we'll make it a game.
Is it a good game? It's a great game. Is it a good podcast?
I think it's a good podcast. I mean, you have to kind of have a guest on who's able to talk about, like, you have to guess after each thing and then kind of talk for a little bit, right? Like, you can't just like play the game and then it's over. You have to have someone on who, like, maybe you pick a category, you talk broadly about that category. You could go any way with this. It doesn't have to be sports. I'll throw a non-sports one at you, Dave.
I have one. I have one for you. All right, here we go. Early life, post-Navy, professional wrestling career, move to the WWF.
Yeah, Jesse Ventura.
Correct.
That's right.
Wow.
Well done.
I was going to guess tugboat.
I love.
Had all the makings of tugboat.
I mean, one of the great facts. I don't know what could possibly be in the Predator file, but it is one of our favorite movies. Right behind Roy is the famous handshake that is now 35 years old between the Arnold Schwarzenegger, whose Wikipedia must be amazing. There can't be a lot better than that one. Put it on the poll. Are there a lot of Wikipedias better than Arnold Schwarzenegger's? He's shaking hands with Carl Weathers, and the handshake lasts how long? People have timed it. It's just to show their biceps. It's the most masculine moment in the history of cinema.
I actually had forgotten that he was the governor of California. There were just a number of scandals under that subheader alone that if you read them to me, I would just have no idea who it could possibly be. But Dan, I have one for you. Non-sports public figure.
But can I get back to the idea? You say you didn't know, you didn't remember. Predator, the movie, had 2 people who ended up becoming governors.
Ronald Reagan?
That would have been awesome if Ronald Reagan were a Predator. I'd love to have seen that.
Put it on the poll. Put it on the poll, Whittingham. Would it have been awesome if Ronald Reagan had been in the movie Predator?
Yeah.
I love that as a guest, though.
Do it to me now. Kill me. I'm here.
Jesse Ventura and Schwarzenegger, but also
Nancy.
Put John Wayne in there as well.
wasn't there a third? Hey, I want to go back
If
to.
he bleeds, we can kill it. I don't do a great Reagan.
There was a
Love the
point.
Nancy.
I can do
where-
a better Nixon. I wish you made Nixon and Predator.
You just said Nancy so that we know who we
Nancy.
in a frame of reference.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Nancy is my me.
That's the only way I knew
Nancy's-
what you were talking
Nancy.
about.
Reagan. Who knew that today was going to require a Reagan impersonation?
You never know. I got one in my locker. It's not a good one.
I was just stunned to learn that they let the guy who shot him out of jail this week. He did an
Yes.
interview.
Yeah, John Hinckley.
After 40 years, they let him out of jail, and
Two Americas.
he wanted to talk about his music career.
They let John Hinckley out?
Yes, I was stunned by that.
That's not for me.
Presidential assassination
I feel like
attempt.
that's a life sentence.
I thought that was the John Lennon assassin, Hinckley. No?
No,
Do I have that wrong?
you do.
Who assassinated Lennon?
What? You thought I detoured the conversation from
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan to John Lennon?
Yeah, and instead I derailed it. Imagine
Mark
that.
Chapman.
Mark Chapman, that's right.
Chapman.
My
Why
bad.
would you think I was talking about John Lennon instead of Ronald Reagan?
Because I thought Hinckley murdered Lennon. I had it wrong. My bad.
I believe the third person you were thinking of in Predator was Sonny Landham. He ran for office.
He almost stayed at Stugotz's house.
Yep.
Yep.
Almost killed him, yeah.
Had to pick him up from the
Whoa,
airport.
what do you mean he almost
Well,
killed
he
him?
would have
I mean, the
killed
man's
me.
crazy.
We
Right.
couldn't have ruled it out. He was crazy.
Well-
He was very offensive.
Jessica, look at that Wikipedia page. Look at the Wikipedia page of Sonny Landham, who played Billy in the original Predator.
He's also
And
dead, so let's.
Ed Smetty, just know I offered to pick him up from the airport and allow him to sleep over my house.
He was-
Okay?
Is that a rule that you can't speak ill of the dead, even though there's some
Oh,
pretty
you
rotten
can.
dead people?
Yeah, you can speak ill. Can a man named Sonny ever be trusted?
Put it
His
on the
tabs
poll,
aren't that
Whittingham.
interesting.
At LeBatard Show, put it on the poll. You want to phrase it your way again?
Can a man named Sonny ever be trusted? But as I was saying that, I'm thinking of Sonny Bono, who was pretty damn lovable.
And also a politician.
That's right.
Sunny D.
Yeah. Then he ran into a tree.
Also dead. Well, he didn't run into it. He skied into
Yeah, he
it.
skied
Well,
into
that's
it.
what I mean.
That
His
handshake
skis
was
ran into it.
27 seconds.
No, it was not.
I swear.
No,
I'm looking
it
at
was
right
not.
now.
No, that has to be you reading the
They do
internet
a little
wrong.
arm wrestling.
No
They
way.
do.
27
Yes.
seconds long
No.
from the start. Because
No.
keep in mind,
Telling
they're talking. And like,
No.
the zoom in itself
No,
is
that is not true. I refuse
The
to
answer
believe-
is not long enough.
See, this wouldn't be a good one for this game because his subheaders are just career, acting, career, politics, personal life, death, filmography, film, television. That could be literally anyone. You need to find people with the very specific subheaders
Yes.
that narrow it down, and that's your final guess.
All right, I'll give you a couple of hints. It's NBA draft day. Let's see if you can get this one. That's a pretty big hint already.
What are we doing for the draft today as coverage and tomorrow with Haberstroh and Amin?
Well, there's going to be a podcast. There's going to be a post game, right?
Yes. Amin told me he will be flying during the draft.
He's flying all the time.
So he will be available tomorrow morning with Tom Haberstroh, and we'll be putting out a podcast recapping the NBA draft.
All right. So I'm going to say 5-star recruit, Duke, born in 2002, and reached a height of 3 feet at 15 months of age.
Zion Williamson.
No, Paulo Banchero.
Oh, my
Oh, it's too bad Confused for Patrick Mahomes wasn't a subheader in there.
Often.
Okay, I have one more. This is not an athlete. That's the only hint I'll give you because we've been doing all athletes so far. All right, ready?
I do
Dan?
think, okay, but how's the game more fun? If it is more fun if it's everybody and not just sports. How's the game
I
more
agree.
fun for the audience?
We need some maybe 1920s music.
Yeah, I gotta get some imagery.
Because I was hoping to do this next week, but now we're in it,
We're
and
just doing
I
it.
wanted to. I
don't have
wanted to
time for
plan
this.
it. I wanted it to become a big hit sensation, like "Would You Go to Their Funeral?" Which I'd like to play with Stugotz. Honestly, I'd like to play with Greg Cody. I would like "Would You Go to Their Funeral" to be a new game that we play around here with the group. Put some people in some really hard spots, like you guys did with Sun Sentinel columnist Dave Hyde and me. Michael K is still yelling at me. You won't come to my funeral, you fucker. Like he's screaming at me across. He's furious.
All right,
Because-
we're gonna do this with another person. This person is still
Get
living.
over it.
First hint: Army experience. Second hint: views on U.S. foreign policy. Third hint: soccer. Fourth hint: Brazil's nuclear weapons program.
Wow.
Really?
Fifth hint: Vietnam War.
tugboat?
I'm guessing that this should be obvious to us, and I'm getting stuck on soccer. That's
Yeah,
why
that's
I'm
something
just
stuck
sort
on
of.
was wild.
Like this is how you dumbed it down for the sports people, because I'm guessing she's just offered us an important historical figure that we're just sitting here with our thumb up our ass about. This should be obvious to us.
What was the second hint?
Yeah, give it.
Soccer threw me for a loop too, actually. The second hint
This is
was
a non-athlete, right?
That is good. Stugotz,
views
you're way
on
behind.
U.S. foreign policy.
I was checking out the handshake.
Who knew that Pele served in Vietnam?
Non-athlete.
It's immediately when she went soccer Brazil. That's where I went immediately.
Right, yeah.
I would like hire Bolsonaro,
And then
but
she went
I think that's
Vietnam
it.
War, and I'm like, I don't have Pele neither making policy nor fighting. Yeah. Are you going to lay it out for us, please, so we can stop this eternal shame?
Henry Kissinger.
I was going to say that.
Oh, Jesus.
What's the soccer thing?
Asshole.
Was it
The
World Cup?
soccer thing is
I think he
Daryl
played a role.
Grove Kissinger
played a role in the
as
World
one of the
Cup. World
most
Cup.
influential people in the growth of U.S. soccer in the United States. He was named chairman of the North American Soccer League Board of Directors in 1978.
Wow.
He's been a fan of his hometown soccer club. I can't pronounce that.
I swear
during
to God,
his time in office.
this sounds pathetic. I didn't want to embarrass myself by making a historically stupid guess by throwing Kissinger out there, but I'm telling you, you threw me off the scent with that soccer, because I cannot imagine
That's the game,
Henry
Dan.
Kissinger playing soccer. It's just totally absurd. It's infuriating. It's infuriating. We just showed our ass to all of America there with that game, because everybody's yelling at their podcast. These history buffs here, these fucking morons. Nobody among them knows anything Kissinger did. But I'm going to make the excuse that it was soccer, that I just couldn't imagine him. I always got him in a suit. I don't have him dribbling down the field.
Right. Well, he didn't play. He administered.
Trying to decide if I like the person that's screaming Henry Kissinger at their podcast right now. Would I like them?
I do.
Put it
I
on
like
the
that
poll,
person.
I think I
Whittingham.
might.
At Le Batard Show. Go look up his Wikipedia. At Le Batard Show. Do we like the person? Does the show
Oh, we
like
just did.
the person? No, keep looking more.
Dig deeper.
Yes, keep going. At Le Batard Show, do we like the person who's shouting at the podcast, Henry Kissinger? Stugotz, I thought of you today because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had an answer that I thought that you would love when he was asked about the best condiment to put on a hot dog.
Mm-hmm.
It was a totally surprising answer to me. He said the tears of the 1985 Celtics.
Just dropping and dripping off onto the hot dog.
Wow.
I do not associate
That's
Kareem.
great.
Kareem's been through so much. Kareem has every right in the world to be surly with all of America. He's been surly. I do not think of him as funny, but he said it was the greatest achievement of his career and how it felt to beat Boston in Boston. To win the title against the Celtics on their floor, something nobody had done until Golden State just did it. It hadn't been done before the Lakers. It hadn't been done since that you win the championship in Boston.
It's fairly amazing for a guy who has done so much playing basketball, both at college and the professional level and outside of basketball, that's the moment that really stands out for Kareem. That's funny.
You know, I was thinking the only acceptable answer is mustard, but I got to give it to Kareem.
Yeah.
That's a perfect answer.
85 tears.
Whittingham,
Yeah.
put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. What tastes better on a hot dog, ketchup or the tears of the 1985 Celtics?
This is the greatest handshake in the history of movie making.
Is it indeed 27 seconds? I find it very hard to believe that the handshake is 27 seconds.
I timed it out again. I was off by 3 seconds. It's 24 seconds. Now, there is some back and forth, a little arm wrestling. It's not a full handshake for the entire 24 seconds, but it is a 24-second handshake.
Mike, is there a fourth politician in the Predator in Predators?
No, I mean, it was a really small cast, so it's pretty impressive. I have to see if JCVD ran for office somewhere. I doubt it. Did you see they're coming out with a prequel?
Fifth one? Well, it's a fifth one, right?
It's but it's a prequel. It's called Prey.
But have any of the others been any good? I'm stunned to hear that Predator's fifth one is being made, given what I associate to be the other three that came after the first.
I saw the one with Adrian Brody, where he goes to the Predator planet, and that one's called Predators. Wasn't crazy about that. Predator 2, in retrospect, is hilarious to me.
With Danny Glover?
Yeah, because we went from Arnold Schwarzenegger Murtaugh.
It's one of the worst movies. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Danny Glover. You can't go from Carl Weathers. You can't go from Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Put it on the poll, Whittingham. Can you go from the handshake and Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger to Danny Glover?
They miss a real opportunity for a movie crossover. Occasionally, there's opportunities for movies to exist in the same universe, and that should have been Riggs and Murtaugh taking on the Predator.
Wow.
Think about it. It should have been Lethal Weapon 3 at the time.
Fox and Warner Brothers there.
Instead of Joe Pesci or whoever it was, or was that 4 on
Well,
Lethal
3,
Weapon?
Joe
That
Pesci
was-
entered the cast.
Yes.
2. I believe it was 2.
Was it 2 that he
It was
entered
2.
the cast?
It was 2, and then
Okay.
3 he dyed his hair blonde.
Yeah.
But it was still Glover and
That
Mel,
was,
though,
3 was
right?
the one where he was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
okay. In all 3 of the movies that he was in.
Was there a 5th one, or they're talking about
They're talking about a 5th one with Mel Gibson directing.
The 5th one was just for
God, you gotta be kidding me.
Well, Donner's gone.
You have
so
to be kidding me.
You got to keep it in the family. Chris Rock joined
Awful.
in
4.
In 4. That was where Jet Li was the bad guy.
Yep.
No one tops Busey. Busey's the best. Lethal Weapon 1's the best.
The original, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the best one.
Well, but Busey wasn't in 1.
He wasn't
Well,
one.
no, he wasn't.
He was Josh,
one.
Mr.
He was
Joshua.
just in 1.
Yes.
Yeah, just one.
He was a bad guy. He was a big baddie.
It was him and General McAllister.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
those are 2.
Busey was kind of like the muscle. And that
Yeah,
was
the
like the final boss level.
Yes.
I legitimately do not remember anyone from that movie other than Gibson and Glover. Those were the kind of how did you overshadow Busey? It's not possible.
So-
It's hard to be to out crazy Gary Busey, but
Yeah.
that's what Mel Gibson has done over
Put
his
that on the
illustrious
poll.
career. Want to check out his wiki?
Yeah, put that on the
Controversies.
poll
Oh, my
at
God.
LeBatard Show. It's hard to believe that Mel Gibson is still working, making movies and making Panama at LeBatard Show. Put it on the poll. Who is crazier, Gary Busey or Mel Gibson?
Wow, you remember the protagonist but not the antagonist. Wow.
I just forgotten. Yeah, that's my bad. I just think of that movie. Now, it's been 40 years since
Oh,
I
that's
saw that damn movie, but I just think of it as a cop movie that's those two guys.
It holds up.
No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
No
it does.
way.
Yeah.
I think it does, Dan.
It
Yeah.
does. I feel conflicted when I watch it, but I still watch it. I don't know. It's hard doing the artist thing.
You feel conflicted watching it just because it
Because
has
Mel Gibson's
original
gross.
Gibson,
Gibson.
star?
Yeah, Gibson's awful.
Do you think a lot of people are doing that one, not going back and watching an 80s movie because of somebody who's objectionable now?
I do that with music because I found out later that someone was objectionable, and
But you think that a lot of people are doing that one with movies? Like they barely do it with sports.
You think people are doing that with the Cosby Show?
Yeah, I wouldn't watch a Cosby
Right.
Show now. It would be too icky.
Did you were mentioning that you didn't know that Hinckley got out. They just hit Cosby with another verdict, $500,000 for a rape of a 16-year-old.
Oh my God.
From 1975.
At the Playboy Mansion of all places.
From 1975, America's father. It is. You didn't know that one either. You didn't know that Bill Cosby now.
You're still stunned by it, right?
mean-
yeah, how could you not be? Yes. I'm with you.
I'm
man.
giving
There's
you-
a good doc on it, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's on Showtime.
And I think that there's a documentary series on the Playboy Mansion too, because you said of all places, if you watch that documentary, I think you'd say
Yeah.
likely place.
The truth about Cosby. And speaking, since this seems to be the general theme of the morning,
We need to talk about Cosby with W. Kamau Bell. That's the one on Showtime.
and it is very good, and it'll make you deeply uncomfortable, and it'll be undeniable as you process some of this stuff with Deshaun Watson and see that there are 20 women who have settled, and the one who is first, who is most adamant, is not, and she is his biggest problem because the details on her victimhood are really appalling, and she doesn't seem to be wanting to settle. And she remains a problem for Deshaun Watson and the league, as there are four victims, alleged victims.
We should
still out there.
probably phrase that differently because Deshaun Watson was her problem. She's not really an obstacle here. She's trying to make sure that justice is served as the justice system kind of failed. So she'll go to civil court and try to get it that way. What do you make of the timeline? Because there was that Washington Post article that came out that made it seem like he might be suspended for a year after Rusty Hardin's comments, which we all agree was a mistake. We're not lawyers, and we knew that it was a mistake. Washington Post article comes out where you have a really punitive punishment coming down from the NFL, and then almost immediately news comes in that 20 of the 24 have settled. do you think that like the NFL was signaling to them like we don't want this still hanging over us before we issue a punishment? I know they came out and said issued a statement to the contrary, but I'm trying to read between the lines.
I have assumed, I'm pretending to be a legal expert here, but I have assumed that once the money came in guaranteed from the Browns, that level of money, in the ways that this is talked about in private, not in public, where no one has the actual details on how these shadowy transactions take place, I assume that if the Browns done that, no matter what you assume about their incompetence, they did so with assurances from the attorneys that this was close to something that was settleable, that it was almost finished. And if you hold women out of that, I would have thought they would have gotten all 24 settled. When I say the other 4 are a problem, it's because his case and his thing is still undecided as we head into another season. And it looks like they're going to hit him with one of these penalties because of what baseball did with Trevor Bauer, where they've ended his career essentially of a Cy Young level talent with a punishment. It would appear that Deshaun Watson is going to get a stiff penalty no matter where it is we end up from here.
And as proof that this isn't going away, just this week, even as the 20 cases were being settled, the Akron Beacon Journal published an article with graphic, lurid detail of all of this stuff. And it was so incendiary that the publisher of the newspaper wrote a separate story saying this is why we're doing this. So this story is far from going away because of these 20 settlements.
It's kind of gross that you have people reacting like, see, it was a money grab. No, it wasn't a money grab. 20 felt like, hey, we've taken it as far as we could take it. We'll take the money because it's life-changing money and it's the best we're going to get as long as there's 4 representing the 24. And there are.
But if you're listening to what it is we're doing, that's one gross part of it. But the gross part that makes everyone an enabler here and makes the victims further victims is that money is coming from the guaranteed money that comes from a shadowy backroom deal that has been made for a while now. I'm telling you, Cleveland's not that incompetent, Mike. They're the most incompetent. And everyone knows they're the most incompetent. They're not so incompetent that they're willing to take the hit. Nope. You could draft Johnny Manziel because you've talked to an unhoused man. You can have an owner under federal indictment. You do not have a team willing to take the hit that comes in that huddle with a $230 million unprecedented guarantee unless they have talked to the league and everyone and gotten some sort of assurances that they're going to get the prime of his career.
Holds water to me. I generally agree with almost everything you said, with the exception of they can't possibly be that incompetent, because anytime over the course of my fandom, they always found a way to surprise me.
I would say that this situation makes it so hard that what it does to the NFL, and this is part of what I've been telling you for a long time, as I see Goodell embarrass himself in front of Congress yesterday. And this isn't on him as he's the easiest punching bag. He is just a symbol for taking this. But I do think that the NFL is so ill-equipped to handle this, just like our legal system is, that it is possible that they treat it from every turn with nothing but incompetence, because they're particularly incapable of being competent around something like this. And I could see how a guy like Busby would be able to get yet more leverage for the 4 remaining clients by doing what needs to be done in a settlement to get this. He doesn't want this case to go away. But Busby, the lawyer, like if you hear the smearing of Busby throughout Houston as he goes against Harden, and that started immediately. The smearing of this guy as an ambulance chaser. He's no hero. He's not a pioneer. He's a guy who's just willing. Look, he saw a money grab. He saw an opportunity here to take the quarterback.
Yeah. Usually you see the character assassination over alleged victims. It's rare where you see someone act like part of their game plan was to publicly discredit Tony Busby a little bit.
But I would assume that Busby as a lawyer is thrilled today and not as an activist. He's still got his case.
Well, there's what's also looming over this is I really hope that this isn't like, hey, let's get all these cases behind us and then we can move forward, because from the sounds of it, the prospect of another victim coming forward is certainly greater than 0 here. So I'm not really sure if you can count on someone being completely forthright and believing that this is just settled then, considering we just had people come forward. All of this is gross. The fact that it moved forward, the fact that there was a transaction with the player while this was all happening feels gross. And one of the things, if you want to be a conspiracy theorist, which I don't think there's a lot of good in that, but we talked about why Adam Schefter hasn't really been pushing the story once he stepped into it, right? Once he stepped into it, and that might be the reason. But John McClain, who covered the Texans for a long time, recently retired, went on a podcast, I believe, and he said, like, part of this is the media partners are also pressuring the NFL because they want to see Deshaun Watson play. It's big numbers for the NFL. That's the dirtiest part. Well, not the dirtiest part of all of this. The central act is, but that's one that's not really getting covered. Is the pressure that the NFL is getting from their sponsors and their media partners to actually have this guy be on the field.
And I would ask the audience this, okay, as we just saw, Stugotz, and we talked about yesterday, the government coming down on two women ruining their lives, a mother and daughter who were trying to do the right thing around election, around democracy, volunteering to just help so that we could have a free and fair election, and the full power of the government fell on their necks and crushed a family, doing the opposite of what a government or a president of the United States is supposed to do, so, protecting its citizens. No, just ruin their lives with the testimony that you hear in these hearings. In football, in the small space of football, look how much pressure there is to get Deshaun on the field, and look how much pressure there is to get those women out of the way. And victims, look at from how many angles you can find the dollars that makes those women go away, as you wonder whether they're gold diggers and whether Deshaun is buying them off with the guaranteed money, or whether the television partners and everybody involved in the dirty deal of this. Hey, how do we get Deshaun back on the field because he's a star-making vehicle, and we have 15 quarterbacks in this league. We don't love to have any of them being polarizing. We prefer to put them in the commercials, but our whole thing is built on the 15 guys. And the 15 guys are so important that we hope you don't notice too much when the Ravens are suffering their, most mournful day because Saragusa dies at 55 and a young defensive end and linebacker, forgive me for not having his name at the time. Jalen Ferguson dies on the same day as football. We know what football is, right? We know enough that when Vincent Jackson dies early with a whole bunch of alcohol in his blood, or when some of these guys are dying early, we know enough now to wonder if football is involved and if the money train is involved and how these parts work together. Imagine the idea of league partners in search of money trying to get Deshaun Watson back on the field, because the ratings we've already eaten up the ratings that we can get from the polarization of destroying one of these icon images, media sensation things that we can throw as chum into the system. We've fed on all the ratings. Now let's get back to making the money. We guaranteed him $230 million because we all expect to make money off of that.
There's 10 to 15 guys like Deshaun in the NFL in terms of talent, right? And of course, there's pressure to get him back on the field, and it's disgusting. But the NFL was fine without him last year. And I imagine the NFL would be fine without him this year, and they'll be fine without him for the next 15 years if that's what they decided to do.
Ben got back to the Ben got back to the monetizing. Ben Roethlisberger got to the farewell.
He did.
And Deshaun Watson's got 10 years that you can make money. 15 years you can make money off that.
Fully guaranteed. I saw that after news of the settlement came out, the Cleveland Browns Super Bowl championship odds started improving across all sports books. If you want to keep looking for signs here.
I think it's worth exploring the idea that just because these 20 women were paid off with hush money, they're not disappearing from the equation. If they sign non-disclosure agreements, which I assume is part of the settlement, it means they can't speak moving forward. It doesn't mean that all of the testimony they've given in depositions so far can't be used in a trial of the remaining 4 women. So these 20 women have disappeared as litigants moving forward, but their testimony against Deshaun Watson lives on.
We took a detour here because I wasn't expecting to end up talking about Deshaun Watson. I was actually headed toward talking about Ric Flair and Ric Flair's last match, which now is $200. I have this right? It's $280. Is this out yet?
I saw a crazy price. I think it's going to happen the last week of July.
We don't know the opponent. Ric Flair is how old? He's in his. You went to one of his birthday parties.
Yeah, he's. I went to his 70th birthday, so he's like.
What a great sentence!
I think he's 73 years old with a pacemaker. And the pacemaker.
His last match is going for, so I have this right, $280 plus tax, but we don't know the opponent yet. And Ric Flair has now jumped into the bin of people who are uncomfortable to get into business with because his Wikipedia page is a true and unholy mess.
Right. There was relitigated in the public eye previous scandals that he had that are certainly problematic. There were all sorts of rumors that it's going to be a tag match because you can't have 73-year-old Ric Flair with a pacemaker in the ring the entire time.
You have to say pacemaker, right?
Yeah. Well, it needs to be said.
Right.
It really does.
There was talk that Ricky Steamboat might his
the
old
Dragon?
rival, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, might be involved in the match somehow.
He's still at it?
No.
And from what I read, that the demand is pretty crazy for the Ric Flair final match.
My God,
Mike, who would you want Ric Flair to wrestle in the final match if you could choose?
That's a pretty perfect.
The
rival.
Dragon. Yeah,
That'd be cool to see. That's
cool.
You can make an argument that's his greatest rival.
Orange Cassidy. I discovered him last night. He was in jeans, more acrobatic and athletic than any wrestler of my childhood. But of course, there are 40 guys now in wrestling who jump from the top of cages.
I loved when you texted me about Orange Cassidy.
I'm like, who is this? Who is this bleeping dude? Orange Cassidy jumping all over the ring in jeans, more athletic than any wrestler in my childhood.
I probably. All right, I'm going to tell this story because it's kind of breaking kayfabe, but not really. So when the pandemic and the shutdown happened, AEW created a bubble in which everybody, this was prior to the vaccine, they were doing empty stadium matches. It was adjacent to the Jag Stadium that the Khan family owns. And I was invited there pending a negative COVID test result to watch one of the tapings by Tony. And so I go in there and I'm in line to get tested.
Tony Khan, the head of AEW.
I'm in line to get tested, and it's all AEW superstars there. They're all socializing. This is a place where people don't have to be their characters; they can be the real them. And I'm in line behind the wrestler known as Orange Cassidy, and this is medical test. They ask you for your legal name. He goes up and they go name. He walks up with his hands in his jeans and his sunglasses and his jean jacket, and he goes, Orange Cassidy. He didn't break kayfabe. He kept it the whole time.
A pathetic name drop, one of the worst in the history of the show.
Would you pay $200+ for that to see Ric Flair?
No,
you wouldn't.
No, this is an unspeakably sad money grab.
It is.
Are you crazy?
Steamboat.
No, like are
70.
you insane? Would I pay $300 to watch 73-year-old with a pacemaker unkillable? Unkillable. He's been hit by lightning. Is it just once or is it twice?
I think he said twice, and he was in an airplane crash too.
I think Mike would pay it. I do.
I've thought about going.
Of course.
I'm naturally worried about him. Like he's not moving like he used to. Certainly.
Come on.
Really? Imagine that.
You're being very gentle with your friend. Of course, 73-year-old Ric Flair is
with
not
a pacemaker
moving like he used to.
Yeah, I'm worried about him.
That's his new full name, Ric Flair with a pacemaker.
There's a lot of wrestling.
Should be his wrestling name, the pacemaker.
There's a lot of people with takes on Twitter that is just like he. This has
that cough. That does not sound healthy.
The cougher.
The laugh.
That's right.
The laugh.
Mr. Coffee.
Doesn't sound healthy.
Well, there are people out there with the take that Rick, this is a man with a death wish. He just wants to die in the ring. I don't know if Rick's ever gonna stop messing around in the ring. Even when he was going through his health issues, he would still like throw chops and try to mix it up practicing. I am a little bit worried, but I hope he's in good hands.
I'm picturing being in Rick's doctor's office when he's trying to explain to his physician what he wants to do and what the doctor's reaction must be. Because if there was any regulation in this sport, obviously a 73-year-old man with a pacemaker, I doubt, would be sanctioned to do what he's about to do.
Oh, it's another edition of Name That Wiki page.
Wow.
Our first clue for today's caller, personal life. Our second clue, career. Our third clue, ESPN. Our fourth clue, controversies. Our fifth clue, Donald Trump's go back tweets.
I know it. Dan Le Batard.
Hey!
Hey! Winner!
What do I win?
You are so proud. What you win is you get to be at the center of a show that has text late at night about, not merely, by the way, because Orange Cassidy is one thing. Scott Spezio also made an appearance
What?
in the text.
Scott Spezio.
What?
I was watching the Angels game. I'm gambling again. They were honoring the former world champion. I guess at the time they were the Anaheim Angels, and Scott Spezio was in the booth. I was watching it on mute. I didn't know that it was Scott Spezio because Scott Spezio looks a lot different right now. I'm not shaming anything, but when Scott Spezio played, he was rail thin with a red soul patch, and this person looked like the singer of Smash Mouth.
It was a visual that I found surprising because I'll always picture Scott Spezio looking like Scott Spezio as he did in a uniform. I would see him in the street wearing his uniform with the name on the back, and he would look the way Scott Spezio looked when he was playing. But Mike, I love that this is your takeaway from on consecutive nights. Shohei Ohtani has had 8 RBI in one game and 13 strikeouts in another game. They're 1-1 in those games.
1-1. That's my takeout off of all of it, is that when it was on mute and I was watching Ohtani pitch, they would occasionally cut to a booth, and I was like, why is Ken Bottenfield in there? And it was Scott Spezio.
And just you wait for Shohei Ohtani to do that in a full season. He'll win the league MVP, and Stugotz will blame Shohei Ohtani for why the Angels aren't winning games.
I'll blame Trout. I mean, it's not his fault. The guy's pitching, he's hitting, he's doing everything. I mean, what is Trout doing? Huh?
When a dude is hitting and pitching, when you would say, what do you want Mike Trout to do? Pitch? Like Ohtani is doing
it, right?
No one has ever done 8 RBI and 13 strikeouts in a game, in 2 separate games in a career. He did it in the last 2 nights.
Crazy.
They're 1-1.
I'd be more impressed if he could pitch and hit at the same time, throw the ball, and get to the plate quick enough to hit
Yes,
it.
it would. Yes,
That would impress me.
Yes,
In his own stuff?
You're very
Like
hard.
funny
You're
over
very
here.
hard to impress that way. Excellent,
Exactly.
excellent.
Zagacki.
Zagacki.
Thank you.